It's KEXP. This is Immigrant Song Series sponsored by the Vilcek Foundation. And we are joined by my friend from South Seattle, Holly Park, Essam.
What's good?
How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. So we just recorded your live on KEXP session.
Yep.
We're getting to have a longer conversation right now.
Yep.
And to dive into your story, this is actually something that I've heard you say before around the release of your first album, that your story starts before you. Can you talk about where your parents are from?
Yeah. So I'm shocked that you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my first album was titled 1212, and it was released on 12/12, December 12th, and that was inspired by my mother's birthday. She was born on 12/12, right? And that was the day my story started. Not the day my story started, but she's the closest link to my ancestors.
Right.
And 12, you know what I mean? So that's why I named the album 12/12. But it's like my story started with so many generations ago, right? And my mother is from Morocco. And I was born in Morocco. I was born in a city called Konetra, which is like 30 minutes from the capital, Rabat.
Okay.
It's like in the south of Morocco. And my family is originally from a place in the mountains called El Ayoun. It's not too far from Oujda, closer to the Algerian border. And it's also the what's that called? The place where the I don't know if you heard about the genre of music called Rai.
I have not.
It's from that region. Like you hear like famous artists like Sheb Khalid and the Algerian artists and other artists, singing this. It's a very popular style of music.
Can you, if you can you describe that music, like what it sounds like?
It's just like a very like a wavy, like I don't know how to really describe it. It's just like it's very rhythmic, in terms of the
Okay.
like I don't know how to describe. I can't do it myself.
It's different instruments though.
Yeah, they got different instruments, like I can't. The thing is for me, it's like I would love to know more about it.
Yeah.
But because I grew up in the States, it's like I have a disconnect, But
I get
the group, the Tuareg group, what I
Yeah.
mean, maybe similar to those instruments.
Tinarowin.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
They was featured on KEXP as well. Like that's my people. They're just this necklace I got on.
Yeah.
It's Amazigh people,
Yeah, tell them the story. You were in the green room just right now in KXP.
Yeah, and I seen this the Amazigh symbol, which means like the free men, the free people. And I seen it written on there, and I believe they're the ones who tagged it on there.
Yeah.
But so the Amazigh people are indigenous to Northern Africa, Northwest Africa, Western and North Africa. And that's where that's my tribe is, from my mom's side.
Okay.
Right, so we're Amazigh, and my father, he left before I was born, so I didn't grow up with him. I met him for the first time when I was 24 years old, which is a few years ago. But I found out half of my ethnicity when I was 18 years old. I was looking at my birth certificate, and then I read nationality Egyptian. And I looked at my mom. I was like, "Mom, I'm Egyptian."
You had no idea.
I didn't know. I was like, imagine not knowing half your ethnicity for 18 years of your life, right?
Yeah.
I went to the mirror. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror, and I was like processing, like, okay, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got Egyptian in me,
Yeah.
But and when I met my father, and I kind of learned more about where he was from, like, so he's a blend of like Nubian, which is indigenous to that region, Arab and Turkish,
So you grew up not even knowing where your father was from.
No,
And then you met him.
I met him 6 years after I knew where I was from.
And where did you meet him?
In Egypt.
I
surprised
to
him.
Egypt. Wow.
Yeah, I came in contact with my cousin. Like, I didn't even know how he looked like. I never heard his voice. It was my first time,
Yeah.
But I went out there. But he lives in Italy though.
Okay.
He's lived there for like the last 30 years. He's a farmer over there.
Okay. So to back up the story a little bit, how does your mom get to Seattle? Like what's her migration story?
Ooh, heavy.
Is that a heavy question?
It's heavy.
If it's too much to say online, I get it.
Yeah. It's, let's just say, a long story short, you know, when you a single mother, you know,
Right.
community is gonna say all sorts of stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
how she have a kid, you know, but there's no husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they gonna, you know what kind of names come up when, you know how it is in any community, right?
Yeah.
So my mom got fed up. She was like, you know what? I'm gonna go find this kid's dad. She went to Italy where they met for the first time.
Wow.
Found him, and you know, at that time, you know, maybe he wasn't ready to be pops. You know, I'm not angry anymore. You know, but
Wow.
and then we were brought to a place in the middle of nowhere, in like in the forest. And we were there for many months, to the point where I was getting sick. We was surviving off of the fruits of the trees and eating fruits off of the trees. He would drop off canned food every other week or so.
In Italy.
And then
Whoa.
my mom, she and to the point ran out of diapers. I'm having diarrhea, like same clothes every day.
You're a baby.
I used to interact with my mom was saying that my first language was interacting with the animals, the pigs. She used to hit my mouth, you know, like don't imitate the animals. I used to play with the rats and all sorts of stuff, you know. But anyways, she ran into a community center of nuns.
Okay.
Told them the situation. They got her a ticket to come to Seattle, where her sisters were living.
Wow.
You know, came here, and we was in a single mother shelter for a time, until my mom met my stepfather, who's from Cambodia.
Okay.
But he's Cham, you know, it's indigenous people from Southeast Asia. And he was my father figure growing up. And that's where, when I came to Holly Park, that was where my story started, you know, in Seattle.
So how old were you by the time your family got to Holly Park?
3 years old or something. Out of 4, I don't remember.
So you don't really remember Italy then as a child?
Nah, it's just, you know, it's something I never like. My mom never told me about until I got older. I started asking her. I was like, I want to know, and then I wanted to get confirmation. So when I went to my father, I was like, "Yo, did this happen?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right," but I'm not mad at my father. Why? Because I found out he was an orphan growing up, so he didn't know how to raise a family. So you can't be mad at somebody who's hurt, you know.
Wow,
so it's just like,
that's so big, because I know so many people who have grown up without a father figure that have held that hurt their entire lives.
Yeah.
So to hear that you met him and were able to forgive him is big. Like, that's a story I don't hear that much.
Yeah.
Like, because I know you must have carried anger around for some time before you met him. Like, how did you get to forgiveness?
You know, the crazy part is I could have ended up anywhere in the world. Moroccans usually do not end up in Seattle.
Yeah.
Right? So I could have been in Italy. My mom lived in France for 8 years. I could have been anywhere else in the world, right? So everything happens for a reason. You see what I'm saying? And because everything happens for a reason, I can't be angry at somebody, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what they went through.
Right.
You know, so I know he suffered with mental health problems, you know, and, you know, like severe, you know, to the point where, like, he probably didn't want to live at certain points, you know? So it's just like when I went to Egypt to meet him, I had met a friend, you know, and he explained to me something that it was from the teaching of my religion, and it really opened up my mind. He broke down the 3 different types of forgiveness. The first one was forgiveness, but having every right to return the emotions of your suffering, eye for an eye. You have every right to. Like, if you punch me, I'm gonna punch you back. And I felt like I was doing that by being so cold towards him. That was my revenge, because when I met him, first hour I was going off, like I was angry. I didn't know what to feel, you know. But through that, I learned the second type of forgiveness was forgiving, but questioning the person so you can have a peace of mind. And that's what I was doing. I was asking him all these questions, like, why did you leave? Da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
And as I was spending time I spent 9 days with him the first time I met him. I would notice little things like we would be walking in the street and then he'll be like asking for direction. He'd be like, hey, I'm with my son and we're trying to find this place. Like, why are you introducing people like I'm your son? You know what I'm saying? Like it's irrelevant information. We just ask for the directions, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll go to the place where my grandparents' house were, and I would see like dolls and backpacks and a bunch of stuff for kids. And I realized he used to buy this stuff just to have the feeling like he was buying something for me.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So through that, I felt like, oh, I can't be mad. I was mad though. My whole life I was like, if I ever see him, I'm about to fight him. Like, you know, but when I seen that, I'm like, that's why I learned about the third type of forgiveness, was forgiveness with pure mercy. I don't want to question you, and I don't want any type of revenge.
Wow.
You know, but it's a practice. It's easier said than done. I still struggle with it.
For
I
sure.
didn't really start to like implement like trying to forgive him until I learned he got cancer, and I was like, you know what, he's not gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, why am I gonna just hold this grudge? But at the end of the day, any negative emotion that I have towards him or anybody else, you know, it's just only gonna hurt myself. So that's. Like, at the end of the day, forgiveness is not always for the other person. Sometimes it's most importantly for us, for our own peace, you know?
That's real talk. Man,
You
thank
know?
you for sharing that.
And look too though, I wouldn't be sitting here with you like having this interview in Seattle,
Yeah.
like if he never left me.
Wow.
I could probably would have lived in Italy right now.
Wow, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. That's a trip. That is a trip. That's
you know?
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, this reflection.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Man, let's talk about Holly Park, because you come from the same neighborhood I came from, which is the greater South End, South End of Seattle.
Yeah.
Being from South Seattle, I feel like we have an intense amount of pride, and also feel like, you know, the rest of Seattle doesn't see us. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Can for people that maybe have never been to the South End, can you kind of paint a picture of what growing up in Holly Park was like for you?
Let's say, I don't even got to say much about the neighborhood. You could Google it and you see what types of negative articles are written on my neighborhood.
Right.
Like all sorts of articles from different platforms of people who never stepped foot in the neighborhood are saying all these types of things about like my young brothers and my brothers, you know, and really criminalizing our neighborhood to the point where it just creates this fear of, oh, you're from this neighborhood, you know, it's such a negative thing. Like, oh, why you representing this neighborhood? Why you representing the South Seattle when it's the only thing about it is violence and drugs and all sorts of negativity, right? But it's like, truth is, like, if you step into these neighborhoods, you see the future creatives and doctors and IT engineers, some of the most different characters, people who are funny, people who are more serious. Like, there's so many different like characteristics, but unfortunately, our community is painted as one pictures.
That's right.
One picture, which is a bunch of criminals,
right?
You know, gang affiliated, whatever the case may be, right? So it's just like, even now, like, and do we think like when these articles are not being written on our neighborhoods, that it's not going to instigate more situations to happen within our communities?
I've seen it happen.
You know what I mean? And so it's a whole, you know what I mean? It's like a whole, you know, like we've lost people, like we've lost it's more than statistics, it's more than numbers. I've lost some of the closest people to me in my life from violence, you know, and drugs, you know. So,
and I think for people outside of Seattle who hear about gang violence in the streets in a city like Seattle, the trauma that we're left with, they might look at the numbers in a place like Los Angeles or Chicago and be like, Seattle doesn't have violence like that.
It's not the Olympics. We're not trying to compete. You know?
But they don't understand how small and tight knit these communities are.
Exactly.
And like when you lose 10 people within 2 neighborhoods over the course of 2 months,
everybody knows them.
Everybody knows.
And if you don't know them, you know somebody who knows them.
So imagine losing 10 people in 2 months.
Yeah.
It might as well be any of these other neighborhoods. But at the same time, I started that off with pride, because there are so many things that are beautiful about the South End that I feel like the rest of the world, even the rest of the city, doesn't see. You know what I mean? And to me, it's like, I don't mean to take over the interview or anything,
No,
but
for
it's
sure.
just
I'm feeling this. Yeah.
it's two South End people on a platform like this, which usually doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think so much of the beauty comes from the fact that we are all in this one community, and like you, even like inside your family, like your family is indigenous folks
Yeah.
from Vietnam and North Africa in one household.
Yeah.
And that is a South End story.
Oh yeah.
Like I grew up where my neighbors, well, even in my house, my family's from Ethiopia, and the person who owned the house also lived downstairs. He was from China. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Neighbors are from, on one side from the Philippines, on the other side from Mexico. Everybody's grandmother speaks a different language. We all have different types of food in the house, but when we go outside, we find a common language.
Yep.
A lot of times that's sports, and more often than not, it's hip hop.
Hip hop. I was just about to touch on that. You know what I noticed through my travels? Every corner of the globe I've been to, you notice the people who are at the bottom of the bottom, poverty, like the trenches, are usually at the forefront of the culture. You know,
Absolutely.
And everywhere you go in the world, you're gonna see hip hop. You're gonna see graffiti written on walls everywhere in the world, and it's a form of expression, really. You know, and the only difference is different demographics. Like you go to the Netherlands, you're gonna have the Moroccans, you're gonna have the Sudanese. You go to the UK, the Caribbeans, France, the Algerians, Nigerians. You know, you go to the States, the Black and Latinos. You know what I'm saying? So everywhere is a different demographic, but it's just like for us, for Seattle, it's the South End.
Yeah, you see hip hop on native reservations.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
For you growing up in Holly Park, how did you get to hip hop?
I was the only North African in my whole neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
It was majority East Africans really in my neighborhood, you know? But it's just like growing up within the culture, like that's all we knew. Like I didn't grow up with Moroccan culture. Like I didn't learn about Moroccan culture and I can't even name what Egyptian food is. I'm half Egyptian. Like I don't know of a single I think kushari is the only Egyptian food I learned recently, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like my culture is Seattle, you know what I'm saying? Like who I am, even though my parents come from different places of the world, I have an influence from the culture of my mother and then my pops who raised me, right? Because of, you know, their norms and traditions that gets passed down. But truth is, I'm being raised outside.
That's right.
Right? And then hip hop is the culture of the South End.
Yep.
And the CD and all neighborhoods in Seattle who consists of majority low income.
That's right.
Because that's where hip hop came from at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
It came from communities who are going through it, that's speaking up against oppression, whatever the case may be, you know? It was a form of resistance, creative resistance, you know? But it's like, it was always a part of my, like, I was 8 years old when I first wrote my first rap. And I still remember it too.
Really?
You know?
What was your first rap?
It was like, my name is Essam and Essam's me. I'm talking about my philosophy, about the things I do and the people I see. Y'all told in the world now people be free. That's me. That's how it went. I had a squeaky voice though, you know?
At 8?
Yeah, I was 8.
That's hard.
I think it was my first time sharing that.
Oh,
ever.
that's gold.
But I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And it got the old school bop to it.
I
right?
love it. I love it.
Right? And then growing up, lunch tables, being on the tables, and everybody freestyling, like, you know, it was just the culture.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, and it was, like you said, like, we all come from different corners of the globe.
That's right.
But we all share this common culture, which is hip hop. And then the beautiful thing about it is it evolves into something new in the sense that, this is the culture we grew up on, but now it's like I'm interested in blending it with elements of my culture as well.
Boom.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why you hear my music, like you're gonna hear like inspiration of like North African riffs and sounds blended with even the samples and whatever the case I use. It's gonna be a blend of everything, right? And I think that's the beauty of being an immigrant in the sense that we blend, we assimilate, and we what's that called?
We build on.
You know the word I'm trying to use, right? It's just like innovate. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a historian, a hip hop historian named Jeff Chang, who wrote like one of the best books on like the history of hip hop culture. It's called Can't Stop, Won't Stop.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard him say this at this thing we were at together in Cali. He said, hip hop is a culture that transforms every culture that it touches and gets transformed by every culture that touches it. You know what I mean? And I feel like you're describing that, and you absolutely like live that with the music that you do. I've never asked you this, but or maybe I have, and I just don't remember talking about it. But what were your early influences like as far as lyricists? Because there's all sorts of MCs these days, but you are a very lyrical MC. You know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in what lyricists influenced you coming up.
You know, more than lyricism, I'm gonna get to that, but also like when we look at like the like you know like the old school hip hop, like a lot of the records were sampled from old, you know, older traditions of the, you know, the Black and Latino communities in the States, right? So it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, I could see why the inspiration comes from that, but I also have like my ancestors in my music. So I remember I learned that from Outlandish. It was this group. It was a group of, I think, this Cuban Moroccan dude. His name is Essam, and this Pakistani. It's a Cuban Moroccan Pakistani dude from like Denmark or something, right? They're a hip hop trio that were doing their thing back in the day, the older group. And I remember I watched an interview of them many years ago where they kind of mentioned how exactly what I'm describing, and they took inspiration from their cultures and then sampled it into their music. You see what I'm saying? So that was actually one of the groups I grew up on, because I felt represented by, oh, that dude is Moroccan and we got the same name. You see what I'm saying? So I felt dope. Like, you know, so that was one of the low key groups I used to listen to that nobody in my community listened to.
Outlandish.
That was the group. But in terms of like, obviously grew up in the States too, so I got, you know, artists I grew up on from here. But one of my favorite groups was Bone Thugs and Harmony. So even earlier on, I used to chop it up a lot. I would just try to imitate, you know what I'm saying, that you know, and you kind of hear in my first record, West of My Home, as well. It's like,
you're chopping, you're doing double time.
So I mean, like Bone Thugs, and everybody listen to Tupac. I listen to Tupac, you know, but
Pac.
Man, at the top of my head, it's been so long. I actually don't listen to people anymore like
that.
Just because it kind of affects my creative process. But I'm trying to remember. I did listen to Twista. I listened to like the Immortal Technique, Tech Nine. Every mainstream cut out there, I knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even want to just name all the mainstream artists. We got, you know, everybody grew up on the mainstream artists, right? But I'm just trying to think of like more just like low key ones. But at the same time, I also, like, my mom was telling me earlier on, like Tracy Chapman, Bob Marley, like she would play these artists, like so I like, even though the first 7 years of my life I don't remember, like, you know what I'm saying, like clearly it's like all these still had an influence in my development, right?
Shout outs to Umi for Tracy Chapman.
You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like these are some of the earlier artists, like from back in the day. Oh, I remember one of the earliest artists. What was that song? Roses Smell Like Poo.
That's Andre 3000.
That's Andre 3000. I remember that was like one of the first songs that I was really bumping. So you know what I mean. This is elementary school.
Wow.
Right. So I'm just trying to go as far back as possible right now. And then the traditional music, like Rigada, and like my Moroccan culture, and it was like a high energy, like Rigada. It was like some crazy energy, you know, types of music. But I feel like my influence came from everywhere.
I love it.
It was not just one thing, you know.
I love it. And then when we get to your music, right? Like West Is My Home. Was the first song video that you had released. I had met you by that point already. You know, we talked about it a bit, but you started doing music a cappella. Immediately. And have continued doing that, like incorporating your entire sound is basically the sound of human voices, right? Like, was there, I'm trying not to ask the exact same question I just asked in the other interview, but like, was there a moment where you discovered like, this is the path I'm gonna go with the a cappella music? Was there an influence? Were there other innovators that you looked to and you said, this is the vibe I'm going to do? Or was it something that you and Petty just kind of like came up with? Because it's such when we're talking about, like, you know, hip hop transforming culture and the culture transforming hip hop, to me, the way that y'all are making all acapella hip hop is an incredible innovation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like in the sound, like I had never heard anyone do it like that anywhere before I heard y'all.
Yeah.
And like and it's ill because people will hear West Is My Home and not even ever register that it's all human voices
Yeah.
in the music. You know what I mean?
That was CDQ's beat too. Yeah, the beatboxing.
Yeah. So where does that come in for you?
So before that, I was doing like full on music. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like before this whole acapella stuff. You know, but at that time, I wasn't really releasing my stuff. I was just doing performances and shows and stuff.
Okay.
Just locally. You know, just open mics and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But and I remember the older homie used to give me beats on the CD player. I used to just write some random beats and go to the studio record at the free studio at the school. Or even before that was recording over socks on microphones.
With the socks on the microphone.
And,
Hell yeah.
You know, but so that's where I came from. And then, you know, Petty came from the music industry as well. But it got to a point, and shout out to Petty Pro, you know, that's my mud brother. Like we
Shout
got
out
out
to
the
Petty.
mud together. And when we started, it really came from it had to do with religious purposes, you know what I'm saying? Like the reason why we started, right? Because there's differences of opinions when it comes to certain musical instruments, you know, when it comes to my religion, and we consulted the person of not, because at that point I was just trying to do the right thing in my life. As a kid, I'm running through the streets. I did all sorts of things already, you know. So it got to a point in my life, and even with Petty, like we just wanted to change our lives around and do what was right. So at that time, like the only thing we when we spoke to the person that really studied the religion, he broke down that there are differences of opinions. You could go down every route, any route you choose, you know, and we chose to just kind of stay safe, and we're like, you know what, let's just stick to just creating acapella sounds, you know, and I really think that came from the form. It comes from really like the Middle East.
Okay.
You know, the nasheed, the word you probably heard, the nerd nasheeds, right? Yeah. It comes from like the Arabic style of music where it's just everything created from the voice, and that's where the voice only concept came about. And I remember some of the first people that I've witnessed do that. I remember when I was in Malaysia in 2015, I was with CDQ in Malaysia, and I was at this event randomly. Mir Suleiman was there, and a bunch of other artists. Muslim Bilal, shout out to him. He was probably one of the earlier influences of this whole acapella industry, because he was talking about his story coming from the streets to Islam. Like coming from, you know, a dangerous lifestyle to finding peace through religion, you know. And I remember when I was at the event as an audience member, I seen him performing over like a vocal harmony, and he was rapping over it, and I resonated with it, you know. I was like, yo, this is my life, like this is I feel this, you know. And it don't sound like it sounds something from my culture.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It don't sound, because the Arabic music, I don't know, like I don't understand Arabic, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like a whole different genre, so that wouldn't even attract me to begin with, right? But to hear somebody do that in that way where he's rapping, I resonate with the story, I resonate with the message. I'm like, okay, this is a different way right here, you know? So that's where like my introduction was really through Muslim Bilal. Shout out to him. He's like an older brother to me, you know.
Who you've ended up collaborating with several times.
Yeah, you know, we got a new record releasing soon as well together. Nice. I was just in the UK for a tour, and we did something together. But and he also goes by Ashley Chin in the acting world.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can see him on Netflix and all that.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah.
Shout out to him though. He's a real one. But it's like you gotta shout him out, like, you know what I mean, because it's like that's like one of the pioneers, the OGs. The way I kind of took it, like in terms of like me and Petty and, you know, CDQ and all the people we work with, Elias Mal and all the different artists we work with, like we kind of took it to the next level in terms of production. Like if you listen to the older acapella works, is more minimal, you know, which is dope, you know, but it's more like poetry, more focused on the message. But for us, it's like, you know, like we're still musicians, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna push boundaries. The essence is still the voice, but we're still gonna create, you know what I mean, in a way where we're
Yeah.
enjoying ourselves too, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like a whole like art form, you
And
know what I
there's
mean?
so much you can do with it, and
With
so
the
much you
voice.
are doing it.
The voice is the most powerful
It's just the
instrument.
voice. Yeah.
It's powerful. Like you could do anything. Like you heard City Q doing trumpet sounds and
Yeah.
DJ scratches, you
His
know?
DJ scratches sounded like a real DJ too. I was
You
like,
know?
whoa.
Exactly, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that really comes with that whole immigrant traveling around the world, all these
does.
day and age with social media,
Yeah.
you know. But like it's evolution.
And I gotta say, man, like in addition to, you've tapped in, you guys got your sound that, I want to say it's your own sound, but it's a sound that is a part of a bigger movement, like you said, of primarily Muslim artists that
Yeah.
are doing it from around the world.
You see it a lot more now.
Yeah. What's ill is in the time that I've known you, I met you as a student, right?
Yeah.
Like at a workshop.
Yeah,
And a couple years later, you did your first video. It seemed like after West Is My Home, that first video dropped. Overnight, I don't know how fast it was, but it seemed like you had a global following overnight, and the rest of Seattle hadn't picked up on it yet.
yeah,
And I don't know if the rest of Seattle's picked up on it at all yet,
yeah,
but you're touring the world
yeah,
in a way that like cats like who are tuned in
yeah,
see. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, can you talk about that experience of journeying and touring the world? Because quiet as kept, you've got
Yeah.
more passport stamps than almost anyone I know.
I got a
and,
new passport.
and you picked him up in 5 years. He said, "I got a new passport."
I swear to God, it's
Yeah.
like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
or a month, like 2 months ago. I love this topic, the topic of travel.
Yeah,
You know,
it's big. We can't not talk about it.
Yeah. I dropped West Is My Home. I disappeared from the internet for like a year. I didn't drop anything after that. I got a lot of heat from the community. People were telling me, "Why? What are you doing?" Da da da. Like, I'm a 22-year-old kid that is trying to express myself, trying to rap.
You were 22. Wow.
22, and I just felt like so much negativity coming from my community. Like, really, I'm be honest, and to the point where I didn't want to do it no more. Like I'm getting heat for this. But little did I know, and I didn't notice till years later, people in London and other parts of the world was like bumping my stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I had my neighborhood, my people, like, you know what I'm saying? Like my peoples were supporting me, but I'm talking about like on the larger scale of the community. It was like, what is this guy doing? Because you know how it is, it's like hip hop culture is, is black culture. A lot of anti-blackness in our communities.
A lot of anti-blackness.
Even East African community, North African community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Even in a community that's seen as black
Exactly.
by people outside of the black community,
You see what I'm saying?
there's still anti-blackness in that community.
Right? And this is the people that was knocking me, So for me, it's just like at the end of the day, this is all I know. Like the way I talk, the way I spit, whatever. This is English is the only language I speak.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the form of English I speak comes from the neighborhood and the part of the community I grew up in.
To try to sound like something else would be like lying to yourself.
You see what I'm saying? And I seen it was so problematic, and I don't want to go too much off the topic, but I seen how problematic it was when I started touring, right? And I started to see that like the only ones that was really getting heat, like it was me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people will be like, "Oh, why is this guy rapping?" Like, but singers not gonna get no heat. Like if you singing, like, "Oh, you an angel," you know what I'm saying? You doing beautiful work. But if you rapping, or what is this guy? His character is off. Like the way he moves is. And mind you, I'm a very respectful person. You know what I'm saying? Like when I deal and I interact with people, but it's just they just judge you. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, I ghosted for a year and I went to Cambodia. I spent time in the village for like a month with my pops. In the village, no internet, nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I want to capture this and share it with the world because it's just, this changed my life. Like I grew up wanting designer and the best clothes and, the American dream. But I'm over here in the village, people have nothing. But then they're so happy. They're so content. I captured that.
Yeah.
That was my next single, Songs of the Crickets.
Yeah.
That was me entering the game again. But you can even see the way I approached it where I'm like, I'm a little traumatized. Like, I ain't trying to rap like that,
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of chill the way I'm approaching it. More chill, poetic video, But, and over time, and then my next single after that was when, event organizer, I'm hosting Face So Solid was out here and Prospect, we did a track called End of It All. Right, that was my next third single.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly getting back into it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm kind of hurt trying to
Yeah.
go back into it. Right, and we dropped that. I'm over here traveling all across the city, recording people from every neighborhood, even people that are beefing with other people. I don't care. Everybody's gonna be in this video. This is my whole purpose. Everybody, we're gonna showcase Seattle for what it is. You know what I'm saying? And 100 portraits.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In this video, the end of it
It's a
all.
beautiful
That was my
video,
next
too.
single.
Yeah.
And after that was history. I'm album mode, 1212 and chapter 26, and we just started putting in work. And then from there, I'm just like, I started to embrace my identity, like, and I stopped listening to the voices in my head that came from the outside world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people just want to bring you down, and I started to really tap in with my creative potential. You know, with the people around me, and then that's when many doors were opening. With the first door opening, it was actually before this whole thing I just explained was in 2015, I told you I was an audience member in Malaysia at the event. 2016,
you went and performed at it.
I remember I said, next year I'm going to be on the stage.
Yeah.
2016, I got booked after I got booked out for just the West of my home.
One song.
One song.
And you flew to Malaysia to do a festival.
Yeah, and that goes to show you don't need no viral video or social media following to do gigs and tours, whatever. Like it's really about, you know what I'm saying, just like who you know, and knowing the right people.
And I feel like it's authenticity. It's making something that people can connect with.
Genuine connection.
And building real relationships.
Yeah.
It all comes to connection, you know?
And they gotta be sincere and genuine connections. Not like you could read when like, especially when you get to a certain level of of just being like not there's no hierarchy to this, but in terms of when you're on the stage and then you start to get more attention, whatever the case may be, you see like when people is trying, like when you get hurt so much, you start to become very particular and intentional about like who you want in your circle, you know what I'm saying? So it's just really like approaching situations with good intentions and being genuine, you know, with everything that we do, you know. But that event opened up so many doors for me. Wow. Same organizers brought me to South Africa. They brought me to the UK, and through that, I'm meeting more people, and then other people are booking me in Australia, and then I'm going to sometimes I'll even fly to places by myself just to chill with people, just meet people. I'll go to Switzerland. A year later, they'll probably fly me out. Like, and I don't know they're gonna fly me out. It's just me going out there. I'm connecting with homies online. You know, so it's just like
you might go make a song or make a video somewhere.
Yeah,
and then people want to bring you back.
Exactly. You know,
it makes sense.
And really for me, like traveling was a form of like escaping from my problems. You know, because when we caught up in this, every time I come back to the cities, same problems. Like the same week I came home, I'm hearing 30 shots go off in my neighborhood. Yeah, and it's just like it's like when you're in the same cycle every day, it's just like it's going to trigger you and it's going to put you into a very depressed state of mind. But when you travel, you're seeing the world is bigger than the block and the world is bigger than this area that we grew up in. That part, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's so that beautiful, part, man. And I know you're a traveler as well, so you know what I'm talking about very well.
My mom had some foresight, when I was younger, because I was in the same neighborhood as you were, but 10, 15 years older. I don't know what our age difference is, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I remember my mom knew that if I stayed in this environment, I probably wasn't going to live to see 18, 19. And, my family's from Ethiopia, so she's got siblings who have scattered all across the world, and she had a sister in Europe. Yeah. So when I was in middle school, she sent me to go live in Europe. Yeah. That experience saved my life, because for me, that was the moment where I saw, the world is bigger than my block. The world is bigger than my neighborhood. And like just seeing that, it's like it opens up all these different possibilities of just life. Like, I can actually live. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if people really understand what that feeling is like to not think you're gonna live to see 18. Yeah. To grow up in an environment where you and your peers, where that's not a strange thought. Yeah. That's not an isolated thought. It's like your generation feels like you're not gonna live to see 18 or 21. Like I wish I could give every single person that grew up in environment that we grew up in, that feeling of like you need to see the world beyond this block.
You know, this it's sad how you just reminded me. I'm thinking like today I did this KEXP show. Yesterday I'm driving through my neighbor. I'm like, my life could just end right here, and I could just never do that show.
Wow.
Literally, like the fact that we're talking about this and that's crossing my mind the day before this show. So it's like constantly in our minds.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it all the time, but like you reminded me of that thought, you know? I was like, yo, what if I just like I've been looking forward to this opportunity for a long time, for many years.
Wow.
I always wanted to be in this light room and perform, you know?
Here you are.
But it's just like it's the fact that that's even a thought process is like, yo, I might not even live to see tomorrow to be a part of this, you know? So it's just like it's sad, you know, but I'm thankful for my mom because my mom was the first woman in her family to travel and leave in Morocco, study in France, you know, when she was 18 years old, and she traveled the world, you know. So for me, it's just like I really think like she's like one of the biggest inspiration that you know, just told me to travel, get up and leave.
Yeah.
You know, I'm about to go Bosnia next week. My mom pressured me. She's like, go. And I'm like,
she pressured you to go.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go.
Man, shout outs to Umi,
and
man.
the first time I started traveling, I remember because you reminded me when you told me you used to go stay with your aunts and stuff.
Yeah.
My mom gave me a list of different addresses of her sisters and stuff in like Belgium, Netherlands.
I love it.
And
here's
like
the address. Go knock on the door.
Literally.
Yeah.
And she was like, make sure you go get cake around the corner and bring them a gift. You didn't see them for like more than 14, 15 years. So I'm popping up over there. I'm like, yo, I'm the son of this person.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping in there. It's called the Sedeti. It's like a couch. I'm sleeping in their houses.
Yeah.
I'm out the country for like 2 months, bro. I don't even know what's going on at home.
Wow.
And then I'm just out here, you know. I'm traveling and I'm literally lining up gigs. I'm I'm not at this point. I'm not getting booked for gigs. I'm calling the homies, be like, hey, you think you can line up a little event? I'm about to come through, and then they'll line up the event, you know. So that's how a lot of it, 20, 30 people show up, and then now it's a blessing. Like I travel, and you got like 1,000 people in the audience. You know what I'm
amazing.
saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like. But it just goes to show it's like you got to start somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
You got to start small, be humble, and build good relationships.
For sure, you know.
That's so inspiring. What yeah, so through all your travels, places you've been, is there one or a few experiences that you wish you could share with people back home?
So On the Road is my latest single. I just wanted to throw that out there.
For sure.
But you know, it's crazy because I know, you know, social media, the internet, artists traveling, touring, it always looks sweet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People are always like, oh my God, I love your life. But truth is, there's so much struggle that goes into these experiences, you know?
Yeah.
And like to answer that question, I would like to highlight like what it's actually like, you know what I'm saying, traveling, being on the road.
Yeah.
There's times like, and this is before the pandemic when I was constantly on the road, right? There was times where I was literally broke overseas, couch hopping, you know what I mean? And literally not being able to afford my next meal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm really out here just trying to make a way with my career, and I don't know what's next. Like I'm not taking the traditional path of what people usually do. Go to university, get a job. Like I'm over here. I'm gonna do this. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. You know. So there's been plenty times where like I was, you know, like out the country, and I had to like this, like, you know, figure out a way to get by. You know, and it's just, I think it's important to highlight that in the sense that like it's not always as sweet as it looks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But through these experiences, like I remember one particular experience, I was on a train from, I believe, Vienna to Germany. I was going to Frankfurt, and I only had a certain amount of money left. You know, I had pre-booked tickets for these train rides and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I remember one night I was in Frankfurt. I got there, you know, and then I was just walking, and I was looking for a restaurant. It was late night. I just got there. I was tired. One of the trains messed up, and then it was just hectic. But I remember I got to this. It was an Afghan restaurant, and I seen, you know, some Afghan kids on the block. You know, they was trying to sell me some drugs, and I said I'm good. You know, and There was refugees from Afghanistan. They was new in the country. You know, just trying to just get by. But it was very respectful. You know, it was I walked into the restaurant and I seen this person. He greeted me with a big smile. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? Does he work here? You know, like I'm just on my toes, like what does this guy want from me? I thought he was like a waiter or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Come to find out he didn't even work there. You know, he was just like, he was telling me about the menu and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, sometimes like you get into like a defense mechanism, you know, and I was just like, yo, what does this guy want from me? Whatever, you know? Like I walked outside and he was a bro from Afghanistan as well. And I felt like I kind of judged him, you know, like I was just like, yo, like, what does this guy want from me? I walked outside, and then the dude walks out, and he was like, he started handing out drinks one by one to the little bros outside. Apparently those like his little brothers, you know. He was just looking out for them. He came up to me, he gave me a drink, and it was like a Red Bull, the European version.
Okay.
So and he walked to the door, the entrance of the restaurant. He looked at me, he said, hey, dinner's on me. I said, huh?
Yeah.
Like I said, what? You know? And I said, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just like, bro was just being so kind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I spoke to him. I asked him what's his name. His name was Muhammad. You know, and mind you, he didn't know I'm going through it right now. Like I got no money for food. Like literally, it's my last dollars.
Wow. You
know, but for me, it really hit me so hard. Like it was such a heavy lesson. And the reason why I share that is because it's like these are the moments that I live for. Like these are the moments that I really remember for the rest of my life. You know, and I cherish, and I have a lot of these moments. You know,
kindness.
You know, it's like, and that you know, I felt bad. I'm like, y'all judged the dude for being nice to me.
Wow.
It's like, and that's so sad because like we come from a place where it's just like it's like when somebody's being nice, oh maybe they want something from me or whatever. But so that kind of just opened up my mind, you know, and it made me realize, man. You know,
not everyone's out to get you.
Exactly. You know, so that was just like a small. You know, I've had experiences about to get robbed and also, but I don't want to talk about those. You know, it's just like these are the memories you know what I'm saying, that I really want to cherish and highlight, man. Yeah. You know, there's been so many experiences through traveling, you know, as you could imagine. You know,
for sure. Yeah, I knew when I asked that question, there's probably a million stories, but it's always interesting to see which one comes to the surface.
Happy that was the one I highlighted, you know? Yeah, I had some crazy stories.
I'm sure.
Whoa.
I'm sure.
But we could talk about that another time.
All right. My final question for you, brother. I love asking people this question. What do you hope people get from your music more than anything else?
You know, when I create, it comes from a very painful place in my heart. Growing up, it was very difficult for me to talk about my emotions. So creative expression was like the only way for me to understand what I was feeling. So it really started off with like a way of just trying to heal myself, you know. And I don't know what I want the people to take away from my work, but if anybody out there resonates with the emotions that I put out in my creative expression, I hope, you know, it's a form of healing for them as well. Yeah, you know, because it's you know when you experience a certain level of pain in your life, you wouldn't wish that upon nobody else, you know. So I just want to be that tool to at least help somebody out there, you know, even if it's just one person, like. And yeah, man, earlier you didn't even mention this, but earlier you mentioned one of the lines that you were going to mention.
I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
But you just reminded me this from you know, the line you mentioned. You said you're going to bring it up in the interview later.
When I write, all I think about is young kids growing up in the projects.
Yeah, when I write, all I think about is young kids raised in the projects. Yeah. You remember when I was talking about when at the performance I mentioned a little girl that was acting, Tamima,
in the video,
and she was the main actress in
Running.
Mm-hmm. I remember at my 12/12 album release, like she was wearing it was like a pink jacket, and I remember as I was performing, she was singing every lyric.
Woo. Yeah.
You know, and this was before Running released. That's why I was like, yo, she's gonna be in Running.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
She said every lyric.
Yeah.
And I knew the ones that remember my lyrics, and specific ones when I'm talking about experiences of my mother and you know, certain experiences that I went through, is usually the ones who are resonating with that message the most.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And there's more. There's even people like close people to me that told me, you know, young kids like probably 7, 8 years old, remembering like my lyrics, and it's because they resonate with a certain aspect of my story, and it's really trauma.
Yeah.
And they resonate with that element, you know what I'm saying? So it's in a way, it's like I didn't have nobody tell me, yo, Essam, you're going through this, this is what's going on. So for me, I want to be that.
Yeah.
All right. I want somebody to be able to highlight what that emotion is.
Yeah. The diagnosis
at a younger age. That you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That way when they you know what I'm saying, they get to an older age, like maybe that's gonna be a part of their journey, a part of their life, you know, in a way that they could find healing in.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from James Baldwin. Somebody, I watched an interview a long time ago. I point to this interview a lot. He was asked, why does he write? He thought about it and he said, I write to describe. Because if you can describe the thing you're facing, it becomes easier to face it. It becomes easier to overcome it. But you can't overcome it until you can describe it.
That's real.
You know what I mean?
That's
so,
real. And one more thing, I learned before, I used to think writing was a form to completely heal and ease my pain.
Right.
But over time, you learn like, nah, it doesn't heal you, but it gives you an understanding of your emotions, right?
Yeah.
When you have an understanding of your emotions, you can navigate.
Right.
And you could control the emotions. But when you do not understand your emotions take control of your actions. And then that usually leads to devastation.
Yeah. That's real talk.
You know?
That's real talk. Man, Essam, I could talk to you all day.
I forgot we was doing the interview,
I know.
Man. To be honest, man.
Yeah. This has been Immigrant Song Series.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Vilcek. Appreciate y'all. This is KEXP, Listener Power Radio. Essam, Gabriel Teodros, host of Early. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Love.